looking at the black card that suddenly appeared before him. Our protagonist, Yuki, couldn't hold back his emotions. Tears streamed down his face. At this moment, he was questioning himself. Could this be the work of my ancestors watching over me? Who would have thought that a gamble like blind box opening, a game notorious for yielding trash items, would today spit out an SSR-grade legendary item? Yuki had never once given up. Despite constant failures, he always held on to hope. And this card was his greatest hope. His mother was gravely ill, and he needed a fortune for her medical expenses. The black card was an identification card, granting him the right to create an account and officially become a player. To explain this, we need to go back to a certain day, a day the story doesn't explicitly mention. Out of nowhere, a radiant tree appeared, illuminating the entire world. Its name was Jiraiya. In an instant, its branches spread across the globe. From what was once merely cultural artifacts, a new world emerged, a world born from a game. The Labyrinth of Jiraiya, known as the New World, was created. People called it the Game of God. But not everyone could participate in this divine game. The Labyrinth was based on countless game mechanics, and it was the only way to access this new realm. Now, Yuki's chance had arrived. At this precise moment, he was granted the right to create an account. With this, Yuki could customize a game avatar. The avatar, devoid of flesh and blood, could not exist in the real world, but it was the sole path to true wealth. Items once thought to exist only in myths, surpassing the bounds of the real world, had now become tangible in this new era. Humanity was gradually becoming entirely dependent on Grecial. Players were now the driving force behind the economy. In this era, they had risen as the new pillars of society. This privilege was reserved for only a select few. Everything began in a scene deep within a mine. While workers toiled away, a loudspeaker mounted above suddenly blared. "Work hours are over. Everyone, get out now. Why are you still standing around? Leave the materials behind and scram. Don't even think about stealing any. If you dare, prepare to be buried alive." The threatening voice of a man echoed throughout the mine. On the other side, our protagonist, Yuki, didn't want to waste any more time in this labor-exploiting hellhole. Without hesitation, he quickly removed his protective gear. At the same time, an old man suddenly appeared and threw an arm around Yuki's shoulder, acting as if they were longtime friends. "Hey, 7.071. You did great today. It's been ages since I've seen someone bring in some quality goods." He leaned in and spoke in a hushed, wheedling tone. "Want to try this out? I'll give you a discount." As he said this, the old man pulled a chip out of his pocket and began explaining. "It's a data chip for medicine. Just data, though, so there's no way to verify its authenticity. But hey, doesn't mean it's useless." Before the old man could finish, Yuki, clearly familiar with scams like this, brushed his hand away and walked off without a word. The old man, annoyed by Yuki's reaction, grumbled loudly. "Arrogant bastard. All you nobodies end up the same way. What are you so proud of? Huh, you're no exception." Ignoring the man's bitter complaints, Yuki left the mine and headed somewhere, seemingly with a plan in mind. In the heart of the city, from a distance, one could see the tallest structure, Kaji Reiso, glowing brilliantly. Surrounding it were skyscrapers that reached the heavens. The city was an ironic mix of extremes. The rich lived in unimaginable luxury, while the poor sank to equally unimaginable depths. Behind the dazzling, glamorous lights of the wealthy district lay rows of rundown slums, a stark reminder of the city's harsh reality. Passing through these dilapidated streets, Yuki arrived at a slightly cleaner, more orderly shop. This was the blind box store, a place where the poor clung to the hope of changing their lives. Gently pushing the door open, Yuki stepped inside, immediately greeted by a cacophony of curses and complaints. "This is insane. How could this even happen? Give me my points back. Just one more spin. Please. Let me borrow some money to spin one more time," someone begged desperately. "In your dreams," a harsh voice replied. "Pay off your interest first." "Damn it. This machine's broken. Why is it spitting out nothing but junk?" Countless voices of frustration and blame echoed throughout the store. Ignoring the chaos around him, Yuki found himself a seat and sat down quietly. In this world, there existed a machine capable of drawing in all kinds of people. The blind box machine. This was a form of legal gambling, promising instant wealth to those who dared to play. For Yuki, this machine represented the one and only chance of his life. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of this fact. At that moment, the machine in front of him lit up, displaying a notification on its screen. Welcome to Blind Box Machine. Version 72.09. Player status: unidentified. Identification code: skill 864.407012. Today's special prize: identification card SSR, account creation rights. Would you like to spin 10 times? Seeing this message, Yuki inhaled deeply, then pressed the start button without hesitation. Instantly, the screen flashed brightly, and a box materialized before him. Congratulations! You have received an in-rank item, toothbrush, a tool primarily used for brushing teeth. Seeing this useless reward, Yuki casually tossed it behind him and coldly muttered. Next. Behind him, a growing pile of junk items stacked higher and higher, a testament to his repeated failures. Returning to Yuki, he remained steadfast, determined to keep gambling. However, luck didn't seem to be on his side. Item after item appeared, but the results were disheartening. N-rank and L-rank items. Over and over again. Why can't I pull anything above N or L? Yuki thought bitterly. I've spun so many times now. I can't even count anymore. Please, just this once. Yuki prayed silently, his thoughts drifting to the image of his mother still lying in the hospital. And as if the machine had heard his desperate prayer, suddenly, the screen burst into a dazzling rainbow-colored light. Yuki froze in disbelief. No way. SR? He exclaimed excitedly, but his eyes widened even further as he stared at the screen. Wait a second, could it be? No, it can't be. Right before Yuki's eyes was a rainbow gift box. Even someone blind or utterly clueless could tell. This was no ordinary item. From within the box, a black card slowly emerged and fell into Yuki's hands. The moment his eyes landed on it, his entire body began to tremble uncontrollably. I never thought I'd ever hold something like this in my hands. A miracle I didn't even dare dream of. But I never gave up. This card, this is my greatest hope. Gripping the cold, solid black card, Yuki finally confirmed he wasn't dreaming. Overcome with joy, he leaped to his feet, toppling his chair over as he dashed out of the shop at full speed. I can finally become a player. I can create an account. I'll fix everything now. Once I get to the town, I'll register my account immediately. The thought barely crossed his mind when he swung the shop door open, and a baseball bat came hurtling straight at him. The impact left Yuki dazed, his vision spinning as he crumpled to the ground. It took him over 10 seconds to regain even a shred of clarity. Still lying on the dirt, he muttered to himself in confusion. What just happened? Why am I on the ground? Before he could piece it together, a man's voice interrupted his dazed thoughts. Is this the guy, boss? Hearing those words, Yuki instinctively turned his head. Standing before him was a group of thugs. Among them, their leader, a man dressed in flashy, expensive clothing, nodded with a smug grin. Yeah, this is the one. He just got lucky and pulled an SSL tier item. Hearing that, a bald thug clicked his tongue in disappointment. Man, unlucky for him. Pulling off a miracle, only to run into us. With that, the bald thug wasted no time rummaging through Yuki's pockets. Pulling out the black card, he handed it to the leader. Here it is, the account creation card. It was really on him. The leader's eyes lit up as he took the card, holding it in disbelief. Incredible. I've only ever seen this thing online. I never thought I'd live to hold such a treasure in my own hands. So it's true. Someone actually pulled this from a blind box. Beneath them, Yuki, still weak and battered, watched helplessly as his precious card was taken away. Summoning every ounce of strength he had, he feebly reached out and tugged at the leader's pant leg. Stop, that's mine, he croaked. The leader's cheerful expression instantly darkened, his face twisting into one of irritation. This fool doesn't know his place. Teach him a lesson, boys. His voice was cold and merciless. Right after that, the thug delivered a brutal knee to Yuki's stomach. causing him to cough up blood in agony. But it didn't stop there. The thug raised his leg and stomped down hard on the back of Yuki's neck, forcing a pained scream from him. Even though Yuki felt like he was on the verge of death, his hand still clung tightly to the thug's pant leg. "Give the card back." "I pulled it, it's mine," Yuki weakly muttered. Hearing this, the thug grabbed Yuki by the hair, lifting his battered face up to meet his own. "Come on, aren't you used to your pathetic nobody life by now?" He sneered. "When someone like you gets something good, you've got to pay the price, right? But hey, we're not total monsters. We'll give you a fair price for it." As he spoke, he lightly pressed his index finger to Yuki's forehead. A small beam of light transferred from his fingertip into Yuki's head. At that moment, a notification appeared in Yuki's vision. "You have received 30,000 points." Seeing this, Yuki's thoughts swirled in confusion. 30,000 points? That's only enough for one more spin. Unconcerned with Yuki's reaction, the thug boss shook Yuki's head roughly and spat. "Now get lost. And hey, if you like, why don't you go spin the box one more time?" "Huh, we're done here, right? You agreed, didn't you? So beat it. Out of my sight." With that, he slammed Yuki's face forcefully into the ground. Only then did Yuki's grip on the thug's pant leg finally loosen. The thug sneered, visibly annoyed. "Damn it, this guy's stubborn as hell. Clingy piece of trash." As he spoke, the first drops of rain began to fall, as if the heavens themselves wept for Yuki's misfortune. "Boss, it's raining," one of the underlings reminded. "The heavens are on my side too." "Huh." The boss laughed smugly. "Anyway, we got what we came for. Let's go grab something nice to eat." Hearing this, the group of lackeys erupted into cheers. "Whoa, boss, you're treating us?" After finishing their business, the group of thugs started to leave. But just as they began walking away, the bald thug suddenly stopped in his tracks. "Boss," he said, his voice laced with disdain. "I don't think that guy's learned his lesson yet." Following his gaze, the others turned to see Yuki, his bruised and bloodied body struggling to rise. Despite the pain, Yuki stood on shaky legs, causing a murmur of surprise among the group. "Wow, he's completely beaten up, and yet he still managed to stand?" Back to Yuki, a robotic, monotone voice echoed in his ears. "Warning, survival indicators critically low. Please proceed to the nearest medical facility immediately." Warning, survival indicators critically low. But Yuki ignored the warning entirely. Clenching his teeth, he began moving forward, his battered form staggering in the direction of the blind box store. The thug boss cracked his knuckles, his irritation now impossible to hide. "This bastard, does he seriously want more?" "Wait, boss, look at him," another thug said, pointing. "Is he actually planning to go back and spin again?" The group stared, dumbfounded, watching as Yuki's bloodied body swayed unsteadily, step by step, toward the store. "He must be insane," one of them muttered. "No one gets an SSR without being crazy first. If he pulls another rare item, we'll just take it," the boss said with a sly grin. "What if he dies?" the bald thug asked, raising an eyebrow. In response, the boss smirked coldly. "Then we'll clean up. Nobody cares about nobodies like him. Alive or dead, he's just trash." Returning to Yuki, his vision blurred, his ears ringing. Every breath felt like needles piercing his chest. It hurts so much. I can't even hear what they're saying anymore. Everything around me is spinning." Yuki's thoughts were a jumbled mess, but his resolve didn't falter. He dragged his blood-soaked body forward, one painful step at a time, until he reached a standard spin machine. But just as he raised his trembling hand toward the spin button, his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the ground. Even then, he didn't give up. With every ounce of strength left in him, Yuki shakily lifted his finger toward the spin button. "One more. Just one more time, please." But as his finger hovered over the button, his consciousness wavered. "Is this it? Did I miss it? Damn it. This world is so cruel." Yuki cursed silently, thinking he hadn't made it in time. From the direction of the gigreal tree in the distance, a sudden beam of light shot out, striking Yuki's battered body. In an instant, his form began to break apart, dissolving into glowing electronic cubes. "Emergency," The host is in critical condition. Immediate treatment required. Forcing character system transfer. Please input your character's name. Switching back to Yuki, he suddenly found himself standing before a raised platform. Looking down, he noticed something strange. His wrists were shackled in glowing handcuffs. Completely disoriented, his face betrayed his growing panic. What's happening? Why am I in cuffs? Before he could make sense of the situation, a cold, authoritative voice boomed from above. Yuki, the defendant, you are found guilty of leaking classified guild information. The court sentences you to exile. Hearing this, Yuki's eyes widened in disbelief. What? What nonsense is this? I didn't do it, he shouted, but to his horror, no sound came from his throat. The voice continued mercilessly. The defendant is required to accept all charges. Congratulations. Welcome to the beginning of your anonymous life. As the announcement ended, two faintly visible silhouettes chuckled softly, mocking his plight. No, this isn't right. Yuki thought desperately. I didn't do anything wrong. I still have to earn money for my mom's surgery. Tears began streaming down his face as he silently pleaded. But the cold judgment had already been passed. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the scene, unfamiliar and sharp. Wake up, 7.071. It's over. The harsh command jolted Yuki out of his despair. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a vast, alien expanse of shimmering blue light. He was seated, but not on solid ground. It felt like he was floating on a reflective surface, like water. Where am I? Yuki asked himself. This isn't reality. Is this some kind of alternate dimension? As if in answer to his confusion, a robotic figure suddenly floated toward him. It resembled a small, round disc, almost like a cutting board with arms. The robot hovered closer and spoke in a neutral, mechanical voice. Host, please input your character name. The sudden sound startled Yuki, and he instinctively scrambled backward. Oh my God, he exclaimed. A flying, cleaning robot? His panic was palpable as the absurdity of the situation began to sink in. On the other side, the robot, hearing Yuki's words, felt a bit annoyed. A cleaning robot? A cleaning robot? We've just met, and you're already addressing me like that. That's a bit rude, don't you think? I am the first Mujigan service system. Congratulations, Master. You have received the only UR rank in this world. Turning to Yuki, upon hearing this, he felt as if his head had grown slightly larger. UR? Isn't it just R, SR, and SSR? What's this UR thing now? He pondered silently in his mind, unaware of Yuki's thoughts. The robot continued its explanation. This is the space between reality and G-Wrestle. Master, you must assign me a name to complete the transformation and establish a connection with the maze. Hearing this, Yuki was puzzled and asked, Transformation? Doesn't that require an avatar and a new account registration? The robot shook its head slightly in response. That's just the limitation of human technology. In Graygon, things aren't as complicated. Your life is in danger, Master, so I had to intervene. I am currently working to connect you to Jiraiya. That's why. Master, please quickly enter your character name. As the robot finished speaking, a screen appeared before Yuki, prompting him to input his character name. At this moment, everything was happening so fast that Yuki's mind was spinning. He couldn't make sense of it all. Is this a dream? Or is it reality? He wondered to himself. But regardless, even if there was only a sliver of hope for success, he would seize it. Muttering to himself, Yuki entered his own name. Upon hearing the protagonist speak his character name, Jigon announced, Configuration complete. Transporting to the maze. Connection established. Welcome to the virtual world. At that moment, after the blue space before Yuki faded away, he found himself standing on a cliff somewhere. In the distance, he saw an endless expanse of towering, majestic mountain ranges. Seeing this scene, Yuki's face froze in astonishment for a moment. The sensation of the wind brushing through his hair, the solid ground beneath his feet. These were things no simulation screen could compare to. This is what I've always longed for, Yuki exclaimed joyfully. At this moment, Yuki's eyes were brimming with tears, as though he was about to cry. After all, the god's dream had finally come true, or so it seemed. But before he could fully relish the moment, he heard the sound of footsteps echoing from behind him. Turning his head slightly to observe the god, he suddenly noticed, to his shock, that at some point, a group of skeletal warriors wielding longswords had appeared behind him. It looked as though they were preparing to invite him to join their skeletal team. Without any warning, the leading skeleton raised its sword and swung it straight at Yuki. Fortunately, the skeleton's aim was off, and its sword failed to land a hit on the protagonist. However, that near miss was more than enough to scare Yuki half to death. Without a moment's hesitation, he bolted as fast as his legs could carry him. As he ran, he shouted in panic, "This isn't a guide map. Getting thrown into a hunting zone like this out of nowhere is totally unfair." While yelling, he glanced behind him to observe the skeletons chasing after him. Before long, a screen appeared before his eyes, displaying information about the monsters. Skeleton Warrior, Level 1. A living corpse with a decaying body, filled with rage, weak against physical attacks. After quickly reading the details, Yuki turned his attention forward again and shouted, "Status window. Open the status window now." Noticing Yuki's frantic state, Ri immediately tried to calm him down. "Master, don't panic." Hearing this, Yuki regained some composure and asked, "Robot vacuum, I still don't have any equipment. If the transformation was successful, then I should be a player now, right?" In response to Yuki's question, Jigon, though reluctant, had no choice but to deliver the bad news. "Master, you are not a player in this maze. Certain maze systems, including this one, do not allow for modifications. This means that status levels, skills, and adjustments from the system cannot be applied in this virtual world." Hearing this news felt like a bolt of lightning striking Yuki's ears. All the excitement he'd felt about being thrown into the virtual world vanished without a trace. "This is absurd," Yuki complained. Hearing Yuki's words, Ri felt slightly offended, thinking he was being looked down on. So the robot retorted in irritation, "Why would you say that? I'm on a completely different level compared to this simple maze. If you really need something, why not try the blind box? The reward includes 106 free tickets." At the same time, a notification screen appeared in front of Yuki, providing more detailed explanations. Gigan System Login Bonus. Day 1 Reward, 1 G ticket. Login streak of 7 days. Receive a special G ticket. SG Gigan Pickup. Increased drop rates for rare items. Higher quality items available in the virtual illusion world. Daily mission. Incomplete. Reward, 10 G tickets. Historical UR Gacha completed. Reward, 100 G tickets. Virtual Illusion World Connection. Reward, 15 G tickets. With no time to read all of these notifications, Yuki shouted in frustration, "I'll use all of them." Then, as if clutching at straws, he began muttering prayers to every deity he could think of. Heavenly kings, celestial emperors, Buddha, and even the neighbor's dog. I don't care what it is. Just give me a weapon. Something useful. Please. After the spinning rewards finally stopped, a golden, radiant item appeared before him. Looking at it, Yuki had no idea what it was, but he quickly grabbed it with confidence, ready to face the skeletal warriors once again. "All right, you pile of bones. I'll turn you into ramen," he declared confidently. But the confidence didn't last long. After a single strike from one of the skeletal warriors, the weapon in his hand was split cleanly in two. Turns out, it was nothing more than a collapsible toilet brush, a cleaning tool. Nearby, the wretched robot Graygon, instead of being sympathetic, burst into laughter, nearly doubling over. "Hee hee, it's broken already." Turning back to Yuki, who stared at the trash in his hand, he furiously hurled it behind him and ran off immediately. "What a useless piece of junk," he muttered angrily. Meanwhile, the shameless robot continued laughing hysterically. "Haha, you picked the UR item yourself. Doesn't look like the gods of fortune are on your side. This isn't the time to joke around. They're still chasing me," Yuki yelled. In a fit of desperation, he grabbed another random item he just received, a wig, and hurled it at the skull of one of the skeletal warriors pursuing him. "Master, watch out below," Jigon quickly warned. But his words came too late. Yuki, with his eyes seemingly attached to his rear end, was too busy complaining to Graygon to notice that the road ahead had disappeared. As a result, the young man rolled down like a ball, crashing directly into the nearest tree trunk. "Damn it!" he cursed through gritted teeth. At that moment, the skeleton warrior with the wig charged straight toward him. Meanwhile, the reward draw was still ongoing. Finally, luck smiled on Yuki, and he managed to draw an L-rank short sword, a powerful one-handed weapon with great potential. Seeing this, Yuki hurriedly grabbed the sword and used it to block the incoming slash from the skeleton warrior. "Perfect! I finally got a useful weapon." Feeling more confident, Yuki shouted, "With a weapon like this, you're nothing." Without hesitation, Yuki charged forward, slashing his sword into the shoulder of the skeleton warrior. However, the skeleton's sword also pierced deep into Yuki's own shoulder, causing him to cry out in pain. "This isn't right. If I stab him twice, his health bar should have dropped by now," Yuki thought to himself. It was as if Jigon could read his mind, and the robot calmly explained the situation. "As I've mentioned before, Master, you cannot use the maze's system. That applies to combat mechanics and life reduction as well. Why didn't you say that earlier?" Yuki roared, clutching his wound tightly to stop the bleeding. He looked at the relentless skeleton warrior charging at him, and a sense of despair began to creep into his heart. "I had a miraculous chance to enter this maze, and now I'm going to die in such a ridiculous way? This has to be a joke. I won't die here. Not in a place like this." Determined, Yuki swung his sword with all his might. For some inexplicable reason, this swing sent the skeleton warrior flying backward as if struck by an immense force. Startled by this unexpected turn of events, Yuki turned to look behind him, where a golden box emitting a dazzling light nearly blinded him. Is that a skill? A blind box that grants skills? And this skill isn't even part of the virtual illusion world. He couldn't believe his eyes. At this moment, two skill capsules appeared before Yuki. One contained Block S, a skill that allowed him to block attacks. The second was Divine Sword S, a skill usable when equipped with a sword. Turning back to Graygon, who was responsible for guiding him, the robot explained further. This GG capsule is not bound by any restrictions. In other words, as long as you open it, you can do practically anything. Hearing this, Yuki turned to Jigon with a look of disbelief. Seizing the moment when Yuki let his guard down, the skeletal warrior, still in its wig, lunged forward to bite him. But Yuki, using his newly acquired Block S skill, sent the skeleton flying. The wig on its head also flew off with the force of the hit. Before the skeleton could even hit the ground, Yuki dashed forward, activating Divine Sword S and unleashing a powerful slash. The strike cleaved the skeleton cleanly in two. Looking at the sword in his hand, flickering with crackling lightning, Yuki realized the situation wasn't as hopeless as he'd thought. If I can't exist within the maze's system, then I can use any skill I want, without worrying about the maze's rules or limitations. Just as this thought crossed his mind, Jigon's voice broke in, brimming with excitement. "Impressive. Truly. I've always believed in you, Master." As expected, someone who chose a UR rank is on a different level entirely. And now, on your very first day, you've managed to unlock SSR-grade items. Behind Yuki, a dazzling 7-colored gift box appeared, radiating brilliant light. The sight of it made Yuki grin from ear to ear, unable to contain his excitement. Haha, this was already a miraculous opportunity to begin with. What's one more miracle happening now? If there's even the slightest chance that this treasure can save me, I'll take it. With that thought, Yuki reached out, clutching the treasure tightly. At the same time, he swung his sword behind him, obliterating 3 skeletal warriors in a single strike. Virtual Illusion World, abbreviated as TGA, is the flagship game developed by the game company Redia. Each player's goal is to claim the top position in the maze. And now, I'm no exception. Back to Yuki's current situation, he had successfully defeated all the skeleton warriors chasing after him. By chance, one of them dropped a red gem called Bone Demon Stone. Its purpose was still unclear. Glancing at the scattered remnants of shattered skeletons around him, Yuki let out an exhausted sigh. Phew, that should do it. At that moment, the wretched system Graygon reappeared, summarizing the results for him. Graygon System Summary. Skeletons defeated, 7. Bone Demon Stones obtained, 5. 70 experience points converted into 70 RP. Graygon continued. Experience points will now be converted into RP, reward points. Hearing this, Yuki raised an eyebrow and asked, Reward points? What's that? In response, Graygon quickly and eagerly explained, That's the point system that replaces experience points for you. Master. Hearing this, Yuki began to piece things together. Since he was technically an unauthorized intruder, the normal experience point system wouldn't apply to him. Next, Yuki turned his attention to his daily quest. Daily quest. Defeat 15 skeletons. Reward, 100 RP. More importantly, he noticed something new. An SSR grade item. Why does something this absurd even exist? Yuki exclaimed in disbelief. Graygon, shaking its head, replied sarcastically. If it weren't absurd, it wouldn't be SSR. Well, whatever, Yuki said, casually tossing the gift box into his inventory, without even bothering to check it. This casual action seemed to momentarily surprise the system. Why didn't you open it? Graygon asked. Yuki had his own thoughts on the matter. If I use this now, it might wipe out his entire guild. For now, I'll conceal my strength and wait for the right moment. With that, Yuki turned his focus to checking his skills. Aside from the two existing ones, Divine Sword and Block, he had acquired a new skill, Break Counter. Skill, Break Counter. Temporarily increases reflexes. Level 1. Requires 700 RP to upgrade. Well, let's see how far I can go with this, Yuki muttered, gearing up for whatever awaited him next. Looking at the description, Yuki's eyes lit up with joy. Just 100 more RB to upgrade the skill? Looks like I'll need to grind for levels then. As Yuki said this, the sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, catching Cho's attention. Perfect timing, Yuki remarked, turning toward the source of the noise. Before him was yet another swarm of skeletal minions advancing toward him. But unlike last time, when he had to flee in panic, this time, those weak mobs were nothing more than experience points to farm. Right on time. Let's deal with these guys. He gripped his sword tightly and charged at the skeleton horde, determined to give it his all. Time passed quickly as Yuki relentlessly fought. 3 days after entering the illusionary world, he finally defeated the skeleton in front of him, finishing his daily missions for the day. Daily mission. Defeat 10 monsters. Completed. Reward. 1 gacha ticket, 11 pulls available. Item drops from monsters. 10 out of 10. Completed. Reward. 1 gacha ticket. Complete all daily missions. March 3rd completed. Reward. 2 gacha tickets. Returning to Yuki, he looked at his hard-earned progress and nodded in satisfaction. The time inside the maze flows 10 times faster than outside. So grinding for 7 hours gives me 1.500 RB. Not bad at all. Beside him, a cleaning robot clapped enthusiastically. 1.500 RB in this guide phase alone? That's enough for 10 gacha pulls. Amazing. Now then, let's start the gacha spree, the red-black robot exclaimed excitedly. However, contrary to its expectations, Yuki, who had played this luck-based game long enough, knew better. If I spin the gacha now, it's no different from throwing a steamed bun to a dog, gone with no return. Instead of wasting his precious resources, he turned his focus to upgrading his skills. Upgrade Divine Sword. Upgrade Shield Block, he murmured, causing the robot next to him to start twitching as if having a seizure. Master, are you insane? Why would you waste such valuable RB on upgrading skills like this? Hey, the skill system is a key part of one's power. After all, Yuki let out a sigh of frustration inwardly before turning to ask, So, what are the drop rates for each rank? Hearing the question, Graygon replied honestly. Rank N, 70%. Rank R, 27%. Rank SR, 2.7%. Rank SSR, 0.3%. On the other side, upon hearing such ridiculously low odds, Yuki was annoyed. Pointing at the item screen beside him, he questioned angrily, So that's the reason why those tickets only gave me junk like this? What a scam. Can't you be a little more generous? At the moment, his inventory was filled with toothbrushes, landmines, cheap hats, and luxury-grade trash. No wonder he was furious. The robot, however, shrugged indifferently. Even so, you still managed to get SR and SSR items, didn't you? Then, as if switching tactics, the little robot began to butter him up. Come on, my dear master. Please just give me the points you've worked so hard to earn. I'd much rather have points than tickets. But Yuki was determined not to spoil it. Shut up, vacuum cleaner. I can get rare items through reward tickets from missions. That's more than enough, he declared firmly, forcing Gragon to temporarily stop trying to manipulate him. But master, how long do you plan to stay here? This is just the beginner's guide area, so the experience points for monsters are very low. Hearing this, Yuki paused for a moment, deep in thought, before shaking his head. Not exactly. I need weapons, and my skills are still lacking. With that, Yuki had made up his mind. I take pride in knowing this illusionary world better than any newbie. I'll make full use of all the information I've gathered. The starting forest is no exception. This is the beginner's hunting area, but once you leave, there's no coming back. It's a one-way zone. So, I'll make the most of my time here and maximize my strength before moving on to the next area. Let's see how far my combat power can go. I can also get the guaranteed SR ticket from the login missions. Yuki muttered to himself. He quickly ventured deeper into the forest, ready to continue his grinding. System notice, Gigon rewards. Day 7 login bonus, 1 Gigon ticket for logging in continuously for a week. Guaranteed SR reward, returning to the protagonist. After defeating the skeleton soldier in front of him, Yuki wiped the sweat off his forehead. Looks like my grinding pace is starting to slow down. Time to check my skills and equipment. As he spoke, he opened the Gragon system to inspect his status. At this point, both his Divine Sword and Shield Block skills had reached level 3. Looking at their current levels, Yuki realized the limitations of his growth in this area. It seems this place can only allow upgrades up to this point. If I stay here any longer, it'll be a waste of time. Guess it's time to move to a different area. Beside him, the ever-persistent vacuum robot, Gigon, refused to give up and once again started trying to convince him. Yuki, it's time to open the mystery box. Use the weekly login ticket to spin the gacha. While saying this, the robot even rubbed its metallic body against Yuki's cheek in an attempt to persuade him. Left with no choice, Yuki relented. Fine. Anyway, it's all up to luck, right? A guaranteed SR shouldn't turn out to be garbage. I hope. He thought to himself as he pressed the gacha button. A golden box emitting a dazzling light appeared in front of him. As Yuki stared at the item that emerged from the box, his face showed a mix of sweat and disbelief. It's just a gacha pull. What's the big deal? But his tone betrayed his nervousness as he inspected the item. It was a sword gun with a black and red color scheme. Rank, R. Type, sword gun. Description: a weapon that combines both a sword and a gun. Usable in either mode. Holding the newly acquired weapon in his hands, Yuki felt a mix of excitement and unease. A weapon capable of destroying everything. If others find out about this, it could lead to big trouble. Saying that, Yuki casually swung his sword toward a tree in front of him. With just a light, effortless motion, he cleanly sliced the tree trunk in two. Seeing its sharpness, even Yuki himself felt uneasy. With this level of power, it's way too strong. It's like a short sword. I can definitely handle this. As that thought crossed his mind, a sudden worry crept in. What if I die here? Since my character has already been transferred, I shouldn't die in real life, right? Responding to his question, Jigon calmly reassured him. Even if you die, Master, you will be resurrected. However, the red-black robot added with a menacing tone. It's going to hurt a lot. So much that you'd wish you were dead. But for someone like Yuki, who had been at the bottom of society for years, such a warning didn't faze him at all. That's all. As long as I don't actually die, it's fine. He scoffed, brushing off the threat. He then ordered Jigon to use up all the remaining gacha tickets. Yuki wanted to increase his combat power, even if only slightly. Understood. Jigon replied wearily, though it seemed the robot still preferred points over tickets. After using up all the tickets and opening the boxes, Yuki received a reinforced leather armor. Though it was just basic armor for beginners, it was durable and safe. Looking at his new outfit, Yuki couldn't help but feel a bit more confident. "This isn't bad at all," he remarked. Even Graygon, standing beside him, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it looks pretty decent. Finally, you're starting to look like someone respectable. Quiet down." Yuki snapped. "Who was it that suddenly threw me into this hunting zone anyway?" Hearing that, Jigon tried to defend itself. "But this is just the starting area. Since you logged in from outside, it's not that bad." Yuki realized there was no point in arguing further, so he waved it off. "Fine, let's move on. From now on, record everything Tor does. It's going to be epic." "Understood. Would you like to name the file?" Jigon asked. "File name?" Yuki paused for a moment before replying. "Call it the Deep Sea Escape of the Nameless One." "What's the purpose of this first video?" Graygon inquired. "The maze." Yuki responded. "The more detailed, the better. But most of Risha's games are all about mass production, so things end up a total mess. This place is supposedly better, but not by much. For example, a final boss showing up right at the start of the game. How chaotic is that?" At this point, Yuki's footsteps came to a halt. Standing before him was a towering knight clad in black armor, looming like an impenetrable wall. At the same time, a glowing information panel appeared above the knight's head, feeding Yuki vital intel. System GAN. Enemy information. Name: Chaos Dark Knight. Description: the chaotic blessing of the Demon Lord grants power to this knight, who awaits the strong within the Demon Lord's tower. System GAN. Sudden quest. Objective: defeat the Chaos Dark Knight. Reward: 10 GAN tickets and 1 guaranteed SR GAN ticket. Looking at the quest bonus, a glimmer of excitement appeared on Yuki's face. "A sudden quest? Not bad. Let the experiment begin," he said calmly. On the other side, the Chaos Dark Knight, noticing someone challenging him, spoke in a deep, resonating voice. "I am the Demon Knight of the Void. Show me your strength." With those words, the knight raised his massive sword high, swinging it down toward Yuki. Yuki hastily lifted his sword gun to block, but even with the first clash, the impact sent pain coursing through his arms, making them tremble violently. Left with no other choice, Yuki activated his shield block, level 3, skill, forcing the knight's sword to rebound. "Just as I thought," Yuki muttered. Shield block reduces damage and adjusts for level differences. With that, he shouted, "Take this," and quickly swung his sword toward the knight. However, as his blade struck the knight's shoulder armor, it merely sparked against the surface, leaving no real damage. Seeing this, Yuki immediately retreated several steps. To create some distance, he realized now that this knight wasn't going to be as easy to defeat as he initially thought. It's useless. If the system mechanics can't influence him, then it should have worked, right? So why can't I break through his shield? Yuki muttered to himself in frustration. Meanwhile, Jigon, observing the situation, flashed a bright grin as if to explain the issue. "Your observation is good, Master, but you seem to have forgotten about the PUB system in the illusionary world. Even with that knowledge, it's useless if you don't take the right approach." Yuki let out a yell as he tilted his head, dodging the incoming slashes from the Dark Knight. Meanwhile, the vacuum robot, Jigon, could only sigh at Yuki's apparent lack of strategy. "Master, are you an idiot? Think more realistically. Do you seriously think you can cut through that metal armor with a sword?" Hearing Jigon's remark, even Yuki, as oblivious as he could be, finally understood the problem. "So that's it. I've only been focusing on system-based strategies. The maze may be a game world model, and normal players might be bound by the system mechanics. But I'm different. If that's the case, I need to aim for the most realistic weak point." With that realization, Yuki leapt straight toward the knight. Seeing this, the Dark Knight seized the opportunity. While Yuki was midair, leaving no room to evade, the knight thrust his sword forward, aiming directly at him. But Yuki reacted swiftly, redirecting the knight's sword to the side with his own weapon. He then slid his body downward, driving his blade into the knight's armor at close range. In the same motion, Yuki pulled the trigger on his sword gun, unleashing a powerful shot that exploded on impact. The result was immediate. The Dark Knight's arm was blown off, flying backward with a metallic clatter. Watching the knight clutch his severed arm in pain, Yuki's eyes gleamed with excitement. This confirmed his theory. Life in the maze is only part of the system. In other words, I can destroy more than just the system-regulated health bar. If I target physical weaknesses, I can deal critical damage and even land a finishing blow. The more Yuki thought about it, the more exhilarated he became. The guaranteed SR ticket reward felt as though it were calling out to him, urging him forward. "Master, it's dangerous," Jigon yelled desperately. But Yuki remained lost in the thrill of his own realization, completely immersed in the rush of his newfound power. At the same time, a streak of black light suddenly shot past Yuki's shoulder, causing him to wince in pain. A projectile? How is the Dark Knight capable of ranged attacks? Startled, Yuki turned toward the direction of the attack, only to see the source. The severed arm lying behind him had somehow, inexplicably, fired the shot. Even though the arm had been cut off, it continued to cause trouble for Yuki. Up ahead, the Dark Knight had already suppressed his pain, his deep voice resonating as he growled, "All threats to the divine must taste death." With that, he gripped his black sword tightly and thrust it forward. From the blade, countless streaks of blue-black light burst forth, swarming toward Yuki like a storm of spears. But that wasn't all. The severed arm behind him also fired similar streaks of light, creating a pincer attack that surrounded Yuki from all directions. Realizing he couldn't block all the incoming attacks, Yuki had no choice but to throw himself to the side in a desperate leap, rolling on the ground to dodge. As he scrambled to avoid the assault, he cursed himself internally. Damn it, I was too naive. Facing a mid-game boss like the Dark Knight is impossible with basic equipment. And this is a one-way zone. If I die and respawn back in the village, there's no way to return to this starting forest. Even if I level up afterward, I won't get another chance to defeat him. His thoughts raced. No one has ever even seen the second phase of this boss. This is too much. I can't keep up. Yuki gritted his teeth as the black and blue lights rained down on him like a torrential storm. He could barely defend himself, let alone count how many attacks were coming his way. Then, it happened. Unable to react in time, one of the streaks of light pierced through his side, causing him to stumble backward. Let's hope it didn't hit a kidney, Yuki thought grimly. If it did, I'll owe my mom a big apology. The impact from the attack forced his body to skid backward. Taking advantage of this moment, the remaining streaks of light closed in on him. Yuki's eyes rolled back, his consciousness fading as his body went limp. The situation was dire. Yuki's life hung by a thread, and in that hazy moment, fragments of memories began to surface in his mind, as if his subconscious were clinging to something important. The scene transitions to an office. At this moment, Yuki is a strategic analyst for the Ninja Guild. Out of nowhere, Yuki slams the table and shouts, "I can't accept this. How could my battle plan be rejected again? What's the problem this time?" Across from him, a man in a suit, casually flipping through a report, responds, "This is the strategy you submitted. But hasn't Green Fan already secured that area?" Hearing this, Yuki quickly explains, "But this is a much better tactic. We need to act first before they gain the upper hand." At that, the man looks visibly annoyed, tossing Yuki's plan back at him. "Yuki, whether it's the players or the rankings, this is just a standard strategy. You've already been promoted to a higher level. There's no need to reassess it. And that's the opinion of Green Fan's ace. You don't want to go against them, do you?" The man smirks. In the end, the protagonist reluctantly picks up his plan and heads back to his workspace. Sitting down in his chair, he slams the table again in frustration. Damn it, no reassessment? Are you kidding me? It's always Green Fan this, Green Fan that. The more Yuki thinks about it, the angrier he gets. But then, as he recalls his mother still lying in the hospital, he forces himself to calm down. Wait, stay focused. I need to concentrate on getting the surgery costs for Mom. If I can refine the instructions and highlight the advantages, maybe they'll finally see the value in my plan. With that thought, Yuki opens the system, working through a few simulation screens. However, at that very moment, a voice suddenly speaks near his ear. Yuki. Startled, the protagonist nearly falls backward in his chair. Seeing his reaction, the person with white hair awkwardly says, "I'm sorry, you look tired, so I brought you some coffee." The white-haired girl is Sinsha, a researcher from the Ninja Guild. Seeing her, Yuki softens his expression and reaches out to take the cup of coffee. "Thank you. Let me hold it for you." Sinsha. Back to Sinsha. She wore a worried expression and said, "This strategy has been rejected so many times, hasn't it? I'm worried because you've been so dedicated to it recently. If you don't mind, let me help you." As she spoke, she leaned her face closer to Yuki, causing the young man's cheeks to flush red. Yuki then took out his plan and, with complete honesty, said, "Really? That would be amazing. The final part of this strategy involves categorizing information, so I need more documents. Could you request the necessary materials from the higher-ups for me?" "Of course. I'm happy to help. I'll do my best to support you," Sinsha replied with a bright smile. The scene shifts to Yuki's mother's hospital room. At this moment, the protagonist was holding his mother's hand tightly and made a promise. "The surgery date has already been set." Hearing this, the woman asked worriedly, "Surgery? But what about the money?" Before she could finish, Yuki interrupted, "Mom, you don't need to worry about the costs. My strategy has been approved." Upon hearing this, her eyes widened as she asked, "Really? Is that true?" "Yes. It's all thanks to Sinsha." "Yuki, you've worked so hard. You've done well. I'm so proud of you," she said, hugging her son tightly, overcome with emotion, nearly brought to tears. "See, Mom, you don't have to worry anymore. This proves that hard work always pays off." The scene transitions to a classroom. The man in the suit from earlier now spoke in a cold tone. "Yuki, for leaking confidential information, you are hereby expelled from the Ninja Guild." "What?" Yuki asked in shock. "We have collected solid evidence. It seems you secretly orchestrated everything. If it weren't for Green Fan and Ninja's reports, no one would have known." Hearing this, Yuki glanced to the side at the ninja sitting nearby. Next to her sat a blonde-haired young man arrogantly resting his feet on the table. This man was Darius, the deputy leader of the Green Fan Guild. "Ugh, how annoying," Darius scoffed. "Did we really need to waste my precious time on this?" Darius glanced at the protagonist with a sneer, looking at him as if he were some insect. "So it's you. Huh. I always wondered who the annoying guy named Yuki was. The one submitting those bothersome strategies. Turns out it was you." He chuckled coldly. "I was curious to see what your face looked like. But honestly, it's just a pathetic sight. How disappointing." Shaking his head, he then casually draped an arm over Sinsha's shoulders. "Sorry, Sinsha. I'll keep my promise to you. Let's go grab a drink to celebrate." With that, he pulled her along, heading out of the room. Before leaving, he didn't forget to pat Yuki on the shoulder, mocking him with a smirk. "This is the price of not knowing your place. With such useless analysis, why are you even here? Oh, and I heard you've been badmouthing me behind my back. How dare you come up with such an arrogant strategy? Have you forgotten who you are?" He paused for a moment, then added, "But hey, congratulations, because today marks the end of your dull, meaningless life." With those parting words, Darius and Sinsha left. The judgment against Yuki was delivered soon after. The defendant is found guilty of all charges. All rankings and titles are hereby revoked. Yuki sat in silence, his mind reeling. "I have nothing left, no money, no position, no honor, no family, not even my name." Returning to the present, Yuki clenched his fists, thinking about how foolish he had been to let that couple toy with him. A surge of rage began to build within him, filling him with a newfound strength. He gripped the black whip in his hand tightly, refusing to let it budge even a fraction of an inch. In front of him, the Black Knight looked on in shock. "My attack? You blocked it? Where does that strength come from? What is it?" "The blessing of the Demon Lord is supposed to be unbeatable." As he spoke, the Black Knight gripped his sword and charged forward, swinging it directly at Yuki. With the effort of holding the whip, Yuki had no strength left to defend against the incoming attack. Is this the end? Is it all over? He thought bitterly to himself. If so, my life is nothing but trash. But I swore I'd get revenge on them. Gritting his teeth against the pain, Yuki raised his sword from below, cutting through the dark green-black whip. At the same time, he blocked the Black Knight's sword. As he stood there, battered but unbroken, Yuki made a vow to himself. From here on, I'll claw my way from the bottom to the top, and when I get there, I'll deal with that pile of trash. After that thought, as if entering a frenzied, mad dog state, Yuki ignored the purple whips stabbing into his body and charged forward, grabbing the helmet of the Black Knight. Without hesitation, he drove his sword straight into the eye socket of the knight, pinning the massive figure down to the ground. Not a single one will be spared. Every last one of you must die. Yuki roared, his voice echoing loudly. He then relentlessly pulled the trigger of his gun, firing round after round into the Black Knight's body. Unable to withstand such a fatal blow, the knight couldn't even scream as his mouth fell agape. The battle came to an end. At that moment, the system displayed a notification. Battle notification. Defeated Chaotic Black Knight LV 11. Gained 15.000 experience points. Enemy strength exceeded maximum experience cap. Experience points converted to RB. Emergency mission completed. Chaotic Black Knight defeated. Reward: 1 SR guaranteed gacha ticket. Achievement: first monster victory. Reward: 10 gacha tickets. Defeating the Chaotic Black Knight. Reward: 1 SR guaranteed gacha ticket. Beneath him, the tenacious Black Knight, though mortally wounded, still hadn't completely perished. Before succumbing to death, he spoke in a hoarse voice. Impressive. You surpassed the void and moved forward. Without hesitation, Yuki replied, even if you hadn't said it, I have no choice but to move forward. Time passed quickly, and elsewhere, a video of Yuki's battle was uploaded online. In front of the footage, a man furrowed his brow and asked, when was this video uploaded? Behind him, a subordinate quickly reported, a few hours ago. Sir, should I contact him? The subordinate asked. The superior shook his head. No need. I know where he's headed. He's on his way to Lin Friend. This bespectacled man was Gabriel Darius, the leader of the Ninja Guild. Returning to the video, the platform where Yuki uploaded his battle video was YGGTube. After the video was posted, it created a massive uproar among viewers. Did you guys see the video today? Unbelievable. A no-name player shaking the virtual world like that? How could someone in the lower ranks even access areas like that? It must be fake news. Haha, was that really the Chaotic Black Knight? And he took it down in a one-on-one fight? No way. This has to be some kind of illusion world. Looks like he only knows how to tank hits with swords and guns. Even so, the mechanics look a bit off. No matter how I look at it, this is absurd. The Chaotic Black Knight was really defeated? And during a basic tutorial session? It must be a bug. There's no other explanation. How is there no cooldown time? This game is a literal joke. Haha. The speed of his reactions, though, is still insane. It doesn't add up. This is making my head hurt just thinking about it. As the debates raged on, polarizing opinions began flooding the comments section. Inside the Ninja Guild, a group of members watched Yuki's video. Among them was Rachna, a second-year analyst. She was stunned by what she was witnessing. This is insane. A Jew 07-01 tutorial? I'm proud to be an analyst. But this video, it's completely beyond my comprehension. Defeating a boss monster with just 2 strikes. She quickly turned to the people around her and said, there must be a small glitch or error in the game. As leaders of the guild, should we reach out to the player? She looked toward a man with glasses, who was sweating profusely. No way that face. I can't mistake it. But how could it be him? How could someone like him even have an account? His words stumbled as he continued. There's definitely some mistake here. Seeing his almost seizure-like panic, Rachna cautiously reminded him. Senior. Elsewhere, in a luxurious setting, Lin Friend, the young master of the Green Fan Guild, was lounging comfortably with 2 women by his side. Suddenly, he received a message from Gabriel. Upon reading it, Linfrin's brows furrowed. Yuki? Who's that again? Hearing this, Gabriel sighed and gave up on his memory. Then explained. He was an analyst at Greenfan 3 years ago. The one who created that legendary strategy. Don't you remember? You're the one who forced him out of Linfriend, destroying his reputation completely. Meanwhile, the Greenfan young master, holding a bottle of wine, complained. How am I supposed to remember a bunch of useless analysts like that? There are so many of them. Ignoring his arrogant attitude, Gabriel, the bespectacled man, explained further. Today, he uploaded a video of himself soloing the chaotic Black Knight. If it's that video, I've seen it already. The Greenfan young master replied lazily, shaking his head in disbelief. There's definitely a bug in that video. How could it possibly be legit? Exploiting some minor glitches to beat a low-tier Black Knight. What's the big deal? Gabriel's tone grew serious as he replied. Let me remind you once again. You were the one who expelled him. Do you understand what that means? This change in tone irritated Linfriend, who snapped back. How am I supposed to know? Since when did you start worrying about pointless things like this? Why waste time on him anyway? Hearing this, Gabriel went silent for a moment. He didn't bother trying to reason with his idiotic younger brother anymore and walked away immediately. Outside, one of Gabriel's subordinates approached him and asked, Sir, what's the next step in the plan? Adjusting his glasses, Gabriel gave his order. He's clearly trying to provoke us. This could very well be a trap. We need to act cautiously. From now on, monitor his every move closely. We need to understand his actions since his expulsion. Understood. The subordinate nodded. Gabriel then left the building without hesitation, reminding himself as he walked. No need to act rashly. Gather as much information as possible before making any decisions. But that foolish younger brother of mine, I worry he'll act recklessly. He glanced back at the building, where Linfriend was still indulging in his hedonistic lifestyle. Returning to Yuki, after some time resting, his body finally began to recover. Recovery rate at 87%. You can move now, Jigen's voice announced. Hearing this, Yuki let out a sigh of relief. I thought I was going to die from the pain, he muttered. Next to him, the robotic vacuum Gragon added. Your muscles and internal organs suffered severe tears and injuries. The pain you're enduring feels identical to real life. I'm genuinely concerned about your mental state, despite the cold sweat from the unbearable pain. Yuki responded calmly. I'm used to pain like this. I'll probably have to go through it 100 more times anyway. He paused for a moment, his eyes taking in the magnificent scenery before him, and remarked, This is where we'll begin. Time to say goodbye to the tutorial zone. Right. He then shifted his gaze to the tallest tower in the distance. Lost in thought, the game world was structured around its central feature, the Demon Heaven Tower. However, he knew he couldn't head there directly. First, I'll have to conquer several dungeons around here. To prove my strength, he thought. Turning back to Jigon, many might wonder why Yuki uploaded that video, seemingly flaunting his power. Jigon was among those curious. I was shocked by your decision to upload the footage so quickly. Are you inviting your enemies to come after you? Hearing this, Yuki smirked. He wasn't reckless enough to take such actions without a plan. I thought it through before doing it. I know it's risky, but trust me, they won't act based on something this small. Right now, they probably think it's just a bug. After all, every game has glitches. Jigon wasn't entirely convinced, but before he could voice his doubts, Gragon grumbled, annoyed. Comparing the UR system to minor bugs? Utter stupidity. Ignoring Gragon's complaints, Yuki continued. Even if they decide to take action, they'll have to gather information first. I've made such a dramatic entrance, and my feud with the Ninja Guild is well known. They'll surely suspect this might be a trap. Unlike Linfriend, the leader of Linzia is an incredibly cautious person, Yuki remarked, his thoughts drifting to the bespectacled man. Back to Gragon, as if it had already deduced Yuki's intentions. It spoke up to confirm. So, your strategy is to upload the video and create controversy first? Exactly, Yuki affirmed. Besides, increasing public visibility isn't a bad thing. The more attention I attract, the more I limit their ability to act against me. If what you say about the UR system's transfer capabilities is true, then I can hide my real body inside the labyrinth. Right. Graygon nodded approvingly. Utilizing UR's features in this way is a very clever move. Hearing this, Yuki felt reassured about his plan. I've got something that can bring Linfriend Darius down. Now all I need is to lure him out. Once I become a thorn in his side, he'll be forced to act. I'll keep provoking him, and the moment Linfriend shows up, I'll make sure he disappears for good. Back to the excitable red and black robot. Setting aside Yuki's complex revenge plans, it eagerly said, "Forget about all that for now. Let's roll some gacha for fun. You've accumulated a ton of tickets already. 20 gacha tickets, 2 guaranteed are tickets, and 15.000 RP. Let's go. Gacha gacha." Seeing its excitement, Yuki shook his head and declined. "Let's get to the village first. Didn't you say we need to leave the labyrinth every 10 days to keep my body safe?" Hearing this, Graygon confidently assured him, "Master, your body and your avatar function through entirely separate systems. Normally, an avatar in the game could pose risks to a physical body if they're connected in real life. However, the UR system's transfer method brought your real body here. You don't need to worry about trivial matters like that." Yuki paused, staring at the palm of his hand in stunned realization. "So, this isn't an avatar. This is my real body?" Graygon added, "However, due to the emergency nature of your transfer, you should return to reality at least once. But let's set that aside for now. Come on, let's roll gacha already." Ignoring Graygon's enthusiasm, Yuki immediately tested returning to reality, muttering softly to himself as he initiated the transfer. And just like that, Yuki suddenly found himself standing inside the blind box door from before. Seeing the familiar setting, Yuki couldn't help but feel a little incredulous. "This, the blind box door? I've actually returned to the place I was at earlier? How strange. Just a moment ago, I was on the verge of death, and now everything feels completely normal." As he spoke, he examined his body carefully. Meanwhile, Graygon, feeling a bit smug, began to boast. "Now you understand the greatness of the UR system, don't you? By the way, there are several illegal cameras hidden in here. Want me to block them for you?" "Illegal cameras?" Yuki asked, confused. But before Graygon could explain further, the door suddenly burst open. It was the gang leader who had stolen Yuki's identification card earlier. This time, he'd brought along a pack of his lackeys. "Hey, you piece of trash. Still alive? Huh, look at you. All fine and dandy. Where have you been hiding all day? We rushed straight here after spotting you on the cameras. Yesterday, you uploaded something, didn't you?" Before the gang leader could finish his rant, the guy with the buzz cut next to him yelled, "Boss, he's running. Over there." The moment Yuki saw them, he didn't hesitate and smashed through the window to escape. On the run, Graygon spoke up. "Master, why are you running?" "Isn't it obvious?" Yuki shouted back. "Do you think I can take on 10 thugs by myself?" "Understood. Master, allow me to find you a safe route. Turn right ahead, then go straight for 200 meters, and make a left." "Can I even trust you?" Yuki muttered suspiciously, but he followed Graygon's instructions anyway. After turning the corner, Yuki was greeted by a towering wall several meters high. "What? A dead end? I knew I shouldn't have trusted you, you piece of junk." Frustrated, Yuki rolled his eyes and swung a punch at Graygon, only for his fist to pass straight through the holographic projection of the robot. "Don't worry, Master. There's a reason for this," Graygon said, trying to reassure him. At the same time, the gang had already caught up to Yuki, taunting him as they closed in. "Stop playing cat and mouse already. Huh, you've caused me enough trouble. Yesterday, you suddenly disappeared, and now I'm even more curious about what you filmed. You don't want to die, right? Then hand it over now." The gang leader extended his hand toward Yuki, demanding his loot. Meanwhile, Yuki was growing increasingly panicked. So that's what this is about, they're after Jigon. Thinking quickly, Yuki decided to request another transfer from Jigon. However, instead of complying, Jigon offered an alternative. "Master, there's a wooden sword over there," it said. Following Jigon's direction, Yuki noticed a trash pile nearby. with what appeared to be a wooden sword sticking out. Huh? You mean that? Yuki asked incredulously. Exactly, Jigon replied. Unfortunately, you don't have any special items to use in the real world, so I've mapped out the shortest path to get you a weapon. Please, pick it up. Yuki glanced at the crude, twig-like object in disdain. This is supposed to be a wooden sword? What am I supposed to do with this stick? Despite his complaints, a strange sensation suddenly coursed through his body as he picked it up. Across from him, the gang members burst into laughter. Haha, is that your weapon? Are you seriously going to fight us with that stick? Let me handle this, boss. A burly thug in a leopard print jacket volunteered. I'll take care of this brat. Confidently, he charged at Yuki, swinging a metal pipe with full force. But before the pipe could land, something struck his hand, sending the weapon flying out of his grip. Before the thug could process what had happened, he was met with another strike, this time to his face, that sent his large frame flying backward. The gang leader, seeing his strongest henchman taken down so easily, immediately abandoned the idea of one-on-one combat. Damn it, all of you, get him, take him down. At his command, the rest of the gang tightened their grips on their weapons and charged at Yuki en masse, ready to put on a violent display. However, Yuki showed no signs of concern. Unbeknownst to the thugs, he still retained access to skills outside the labyrinth. Impossible. This isn't the labyrinth. How can you still use your skills? Yuki smirked and said, even if it's a stroke of luck, being able to use my skills like this feels amazing. With that, he prepared to face the charging mob, his confidence unwavering. What was that? Someone asked. How should I know? Another voice responded irritably. Hearing this, the group of people began to get frustrated. Damn it, is he really just a nobody? Or has the boss gone insane for choosing to mess with someone as dangerous as him? One of them speculated cautiously. Before they could voice more hesitant remarks, the leader of the group angrily shouted at them. You cowards! Are you seriously scared of some random punk? No matter how strong he is, he's still just a nobody. Take him down. He roared furiously, giving the command, despite being a little surprised at how easily the protagonist had taken down one of his subordinates. The leader still smirked. To him, everything seemed under control. A brat like him dares to challenge us? Huh. No way he's just some ordinary guy, he thought. But I'm the Black Serpent. There's no way I could lose to someone as insignificant as him. He laughed quietly to himself. Unfortunately for him, things rarely go as planned. Before even a minute had passed since his subordinates charged forward, their anguished cries began to echo nonstop. The leader's face turned pale as he realized that all of his men who had attacked had been swiftly defeated by Yuki. Turning back to Yuki, he stood there confidently after dealing with the thugs. Is that all? Yuki said with disdain. Your strength is nothing, but your mouth sure is loud. He couldn't help but silently thank his divine sword skill. Without it, he was certain he would have been the one lying on the ground. The moment he gripped the sword in his hand, all his skills awakened, making him vastly different from an ordinary player. This wasn't just about transformation. His entire body had adapted. It wasn't just within the dungeon. He realized that his real-world strength mirrored his in-game abilities. Thinking about this, a strong sense of confidence surged within Yuki. He took a step forward, confronting the defeated thugs. Oh, by the way, he said mockingly, I almost forgot. You guys stole my account yesterday, didn't you? And let's not forget those who dared to beat me up. Up ahead, it seemed like the gang members had realized Yuki wouldn't show them any mercy. Out of desperation, they charged at him again, yelling furiously, Die, you bastard! Two of the bulliest members grabbed baseball bats and lunged at him, attempting to spill his blood. But the result was as predictable as ever. After a few crisp and decisive sounds, Yuki struck their wrists and ankles with pinpoint precision, targeting their weak points. The blows left them incapacitated, unable to move or even hold their weapons. Seeing this, Yuki turned his gaze toward the gang leader, the one who had nearly sent him to his grave the previous day. So, you must be the boss. Huh? Yuki said coldly. You really took good care of me yesterday. The gang leader, hearing these words, felt a wave of panic wash over him. Grabbing a baseball bat lying nearby, He swung it wildly in front of him in a blind attempt to keep Yuki at bay. "Stay back. Get away from me," he shouted, his voice trembling. Yuki, noticing the leader's frantic behavior, smirked. With a casual flick of his wooden sword, he sent the bat flying from the man's hands. Any semblance of confidence the gang leader had left shattered instantly. "What's this? You still haven't admitted defeat?" Yuki said mockingly. "Your underlings are all down for the count. As their boss, shouldn't you be stepping up to avenge them?" His taunting tone only deepened the gang leader's humiliation and anger. Despite his fear, the man roared and charged at Yuki, attempting to grab another bat while screaming, "Shut up!" But before he could even grasp the weapon properly, Yuki's wooden sword stabbed straight into the man's palm. The leader let out a blood-curdling scream as he recoiled in pain. "What's wrong? Is it over already?" Yuki teased. Hearing this, the gang leader abandoned his attempt to grab a bat and instead lunged at Yuki with his fists clenched, shouting furiously, "I'm Zuga of the Black Serpent Gang." Before Zuga could finish introducing himself, Yuki struck him squarely in the face with his wooden sword. The impact was so forceful that Zuga flew backward, tumbling like a broken sack of rice.